Because the health and fitness world can get a little nutty, it's time for Body Kindness. Today we're going to talk about habits to help you create habits you'll love.
And we're checking in on how we're both doing at our own body kindness goals.
Hello and welcome to Body Kindness, where happiness and health begin by being good to yourself. I'm your host, your coach, and your guide, Rebecca Scritchfield, and I have the wonderful Bernie Salazar here with me again today.
Hey, Becca, how are you? And thank you, everybody out there, for listening in.
Yes, I am so excited. I just got to say that we love the emails we're getting from everybody. We've got a great listener question today. If you like the show, please subscribe, share it with others, and post a rating and review as well. We'd appreciate that very much. Well, Bernie, I'm really excited to chat with you this week because it's all about the habit. And what can I say except for habits can be very exciting, and they can also be a big pain in the butt if you don't know what you're doing when you're trying to create habits. So I'm really excited to just talk with you and help break it down. And the way I figure we get started is actually just give each other an update on how we're doing on our body kindness goals. And so I'm going to kick it to you and just fill me in. What are you working on? What's going well and what's not going well?
Well, I'll go ahead and start off on a great note. Two things, actually. I have dedicated myself to really hydrating myself properly. But I really dedicated myself to consuming more water. So I literally have kind of stuck to just that for the time being. And I'm already noticing a huge difference both in my complexion and even level of energy. I know before I was getting a little bit more headaches. Those have kind of seemed to already diminish. So I'm very happy with that. Another thing that I've made some progress on is something that you actually suggested, and that was instead of really looking at the intensity of my workouts, I'm taking a very real step, and that's more so of the counting of the minutes that I'm able to invest in my workouts. Because let's face it, I am a new dad. I do have a full-time career as well. And I was beating myself up for a bit about the whole intensity thing. Again, you know where I'm coming from. My background is go, go, go. Try to beat out the person next to you. And I always felt that that's where I needed to be. But recently what I've done is just count what it is that I'm doing, because it counts. And believe me, it may not sound like this is a revolutionary thing, but for me, it is huge. We actually had a listener not too long ago submit a question talking about how they felt because the intensity of their workouts weren't necessarily up there, that they didn't count them. And when I sat back and thought about it and even heard your reply, I thought to myself, I'm doing the exact same thing. So if I'm here preaching body kindness, I got to be a little kinder to myself. And that's what's been going on. So I've been really able to get in 3.5 hours to 4 a week. And it may not sound like much, but it has really changed my outlook on exercise. And I'm just feeling better all around.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I feel great about it. And I really hope our listeners are tuning into that and listening to what I'm saying, because, sometimes we really underestimate what we can do. We don't give enough credit to the 5 minutes here, the 5 minutes there. And I'm going to give credit to that. And I feel good about it.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is there's nothing wrong with self-improvement. There's nothing wrong with asking yourself to do better and do more and push yourself harder. But there is the body kindness way of doing things where you have self-compassion. You realize you're a human being and it's not going to be perfect out of the gate. And whenever is it truly perfect? In fact, I think perfection is the enemy. I think striving to be perfect is something that, you're never going to be satisfied with. And so, the body kindness way of challenging yourself is setting a goal and getting started at it and then repeating it over and again. And that's actually through the repetition what ends up allowing a habit to form eventually. But it comes with effort. And there is good research that actually shows that by taking an action, even if it seems small and insignificant, that it is a piece of memory for your brain. It is something that caused your brain to learn and grow. And because it's an experience you gave yourself, that you're more likely to do something again the next day and the next day and get into that repetition cycle. So truthfully, the most important thing is that you start, and the second most important thing would be that you continue on. So I would just encourage you, whatever you've started, to keep doing. And certainly, when you feel that sort of encouragement from yourself that it's time for a challenge, it's time to kick it up a notch, listen to that, because there is, again, nothing wrong with saying, hey, I've got some goals. That's how people achieve things, is by setting goals. But the goals should feel realistic for you and manageable, at least, enough to the point that when you write them down and look at them, they excite you and they energize you and they feel like something you could accomplish. And that kind of sets you up for the right mindset to take action when you need to take action. And then that excitement and that reward you get from accomplishing something then feeds the desire to challenge yourself more. So I think that's a really important distinction, because I think people have the tendency, that sort of no pain, no gain mentality. If I'm not hating my exercise, or if I'm not completely beating myself up in my head about, how I'm not doing enough, tough love, I'll give myself tough love, then I'll get better. And that is just a recipe for disaster, because that means that you lack the understanding and the self-compassion of your humanness. And last time I checked, we all human beings.
Absolutely. And another thing that it's allowed me to do is make peace with where I was and where I'm at now. And what I mean by that is, I was, and you can vouch for me, I was running marathons, half marathons, 5Ks. My time was good. It was really good. And since then, I almost feel like if I can't run that fast or work out that intense, then, why bother? And the truth is, I needed to remind myself where I started. And that is definitely a different place now, where I'm starting now, and it may be different in the future when we start. And when I say start, it's not necessarily just at this moment realizing that you have to start moving your body. No, every day for me is a start, and each day is going to give you something different, and you have to be at peace with it and know that at minimum you're actually getting out there and doing something, so you are doing great. And I know that I'm speaking to a lot of our listeners who were former athletes out there. I see you, captain of the football team, captain of the softball team, captain of the volleyball team. And it's funny because we tend to glorify those times as if, our body in its current state isn't doing exceptional things. And I've just come back to this point of giving myself credit. And again, I want to encourage our listeners, wherever you're at now is a good place. We're just going to move forward and figure out how to get you to a place where you are just as happy with what your body's giving you, because your body is working for you.
Yeah, and just to touch on, since we're actually talking about like movement as a habit and everything, it is the body kindness way to respect your body, and that means connecting to it, listening to it. It might not feel like doing what you originally planned, and being able to be flexible and deciding to do something else and letting that be good enough. Or you might feel that your body is really kind of dreading the workout that you've scheduled, and it kind of takes a little bit of self-coaching, and which you can do through self-compassion, of just thinking about the pros and cons of your options. I have a choice here. I could choose to not do the exercise I was going to do, because then as a benefit, I get to avoid the discomfort that I'm anticipating. Or I could choose to do the workout while I commit to staying connected to my body, checking in. I can always choose to stop if I feel that the discomfort isn't right. And I think that it takes a lot of mental strength to be able to do. But that is a key to forming habits too, is to be able to pause and think about your options and realize that, again, body kindness is whatever you define it to be. So nobody else is the expert on your body. If you're there and you need a rest day and it's not avoidance, you take a rest day because you have the inner wisdom to say this is what your body needs, and it's not avoidance.
Well, I was going to jump in and say, as far as habits go, you're absolutely right. I am enjoying this approach so much better than what I associated working out with in the past, that I do want to do it again. And I constantly am reminded by this feeling when I look at kids. Kids aren't going to do anything that they don't like doing. Humans, we're not going to do anything that we don't like doing. So I'm really developing that love for movement again. And now I can honestly say I'm in a better place. So our listeners out there, like what you do, love what you do. You're investing not only yourself, but you're taking of your time. And that's what I'm finding again, Rebecca.
Cool. Well, I'll update you, I guess, on how I'm doing. For me, I have to say the fitness part is pretty easy at this point. I am of the mindset where it's kind of like, it's such a habit for me that it takes more effort for me to think about not getting a workout in. That is the thing that requires more effort. And I know I don't work out every day, but it is, when I plan my schedule, I plan for times where I'm going to get a workout. And I do like to do classes. So I like to do yoga. There's a workout in the DC area, and I think Philadelphia and Minneapolis too, called Solid Core. And I love to do that workout. I also have checked out Orange Theory recently in the DC area. And so I'll try to do classes, especially in the wintertime. It keeps me interested. And, I like, for once, somebody else telling me what to do and coaching me through it and everything. But I like to maintain my self-control over, I take breaks when I want to take breaks, etc. I also enjoy walking and playing with my kids. And so for me, I don't have to think much about movement because my body craves it. And so, like, for example, I did a yoga class today because I really felt like I wanted stretching and relaxation, helping myself de-stress a little bit, and it's part of what I love to do. So it wasn't very hard to make it a priority and fit it in my schedule. If my schedule was tighter, I might have done a walk and listened to an audiobook. So I like having lots of options. Food-wise, same thing. I mean, I guess the nutrition expert should expect to have really good eating habits, but, I'm not perfect, but, I just am kind of doing my thing where I plan and shop and prep as much ahead of time as I can. So during the week, I can literally get dinner on the table in 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll have to talk about my little secrets for there later. But so I feel very happy with that. Where I am disappointed is my year of kindness goal/challenge, which clearly has been challenging. And, here's the thing, and I think this is where we can get into more talking about habits. Right now for me, nutrition, exercise, eating well, those types of things, they are pretty easy and effortless, and it's part of, it's like breathing. I don't have to tell myself to do it. While there's always room to learn and grow, those are pretty easy. But this body kindness challenge, or sorry, year of kindness challenge is new to me. And I set it as a goal because I wanted to recognize things both big and small that I did for myself and also I did for other people. You know, being really busy, you just kind of rush through life and you don't always recognize that you are connecting with others, supporting others. And, you know, I really wanted to take, I figured it would be a minute or two a day to reflect on that. And I was doing really good. I put it out there on New Year's Day, and literally every day, I'm looking at my journal right now, but I made it every single day where I Instagrammed it. I had one little break, and it was only a couple days. And I actually, the self-compassionate person I am, totally forgave myself. And I gave myself a little window. Okay, yeah, 123 to 125. Snowed in. Cooked, shoveled, snuggled, slept, family time, guiltless pleasures. So I gave myself, that was over a couple days, but it was one entry. And then now I'm looking and I haven't written an entry in a week. And I'm just really bummed about it because this is something that I set a goal. I was interested in it. I was excited about it. Those are all keys to setting body kindness goals, by the way. It came from within. Nobody was pushing me. I was like, yes, let's go. And I know how to create habits. Consistency, consistency, consistency. So I picked something manageable that I could do. I didn't have to create any special graphics, just handwritten in my journal, take a photo, put it on Instagram. So simple. It was simple enough that I could start it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. But then something happened in life and I dropped it all together, right? So sound familiar? Like, this might not be eating or exercise, but it's the same pattern. It's something that requires effort that's not yet a habit. I gave myself a manageable routine, and my job was to repeat the routine over and over and over again until it becomes an effortless habit. And so this is, again, I'm just reflecting here. There's no judgment going on. But as I was thinking about it, because the past 3 days I've told myself, hey, you got to get back to that. Hey, you got to get back to that. Hey, you got to get back to that. And I still haven't gotten back to it. And this is classic, it's not yet a habit and you got to get back on the horse and you just got to start. You got to take an action. You got to do something. And I'm not, it's not the end of the world, but this is something that's important to me. I do care deeply about it. And the most important thing is for me to end the dry spell. So I have my journal in front of me. And literally live, like while talking to you, I am going to write my entry. So you better come up with something to say because I'm going to write my entry so that I break my lack of habit streak right now and get back into my routine because I really do care about this habit.
Well, I have a couple things to kind of say about what you've shared. First of all, I really do appreciate the fact that you are open and sharing the fact that, getting exercise isn't an issue for you. And coming from a person of various sizes throughout their life, the last thing you want to hear is, oh, this person has no problems doing what is literally kicking my butt. And then you went to the nutrition, and from a nutritionist, you're saying you're doing pretty spot on as far as really nourishing yourself. And I just want to start by, first of all, congratulating you. And I don't mean that as in oh, look at you. It's just when it comes to habits, you have them. And that's wonderful. And that's what I love about our show, Rebecca, is that we are not trying to, say, oh, if you're struggling with this, those are the only people that should be listening to this show. No way. I would love to hear more from people who have developed these great habits. What helped you to do that is what I'm asking our, listeners. And I want to ask you that in a minute. Another thing, too, when it comes to your year of kindness, I can vouch for you. You may not have Instagrammed them or written them down, but I do remember back in January when, Snow Mageddon hit over there where you're at. And I remember some of the best pictures that you put on Instagram were of your little girls out there enjoying the snow and really participating in the moment. And I know you were there because you were snapping the picture, and the joy that came across their face just kind of shone through on your feed. So you may not have necessarily snapped that picture or written that letter, but I can guarantee you that there was a lot of kindness going on there. And I know your little girls appreciated that. So to all our listeners out there, I encourage you to share with us, not only how did you develop some habits that you've developed, but, I want to talk to you about how you can really move forward in creating that routine, so that you can develop these habits long term. I don't know. I just me and habits, Rebecca. I'm glad we're talking about it because I do have barriers when it comes to sticking to them, and that leads me to my next question. Why? You said that there was something in a little life event that took place that kind of hindered the actual posting of your year of kindness. What was it?
Oh, I don't know if it was one thing, but I think, um, well, gosh, that's a really interesting question. I think lately I've been stressed out trying to finish out my manuscript, which we haven't said on the show, but yes, I am writing a book.
Yay!
Yay.
Congratulations, Rebecca. Yes.
So my
You have an
husband's,
author here.
yay. Well, hopefully, well, no, it will. It just won't be for a little
You're
while.
gonna do great.
But my husband's been traveling for work, and I just with the kids, and thankfully my awesome mother-in-law is in town, and she's like, taking my husband's place, actually doing a lot more than he typically does.
We're not gonna talk.
I'm so glad that she's here. But so there is support, and it's not that, but I just think that it's, like anyone struggling to create any habit, life happens and gets in the way, and you miss it one day. And if you don't have a plan, if you don't acknowledge that you missed it, and again, that's part of self-compassion. Self-compassion is like owning up to mistakes. So, well, let me take a step back first. You have to be aware that you goofed up. So, but yeah, the day I didn't record, I definitely remember, oh yeah, you didn't record today. Yawn, yawn, you're going to bed, So I kind of busted that commitment, right? Now it could have been stress, stuff going on, whatever. But I had a momentary lapse of I wasn't reminded how important it was to me to keep doing it.
Well, not just
Go
that. What
ahead.
did you just do right now? You literally took the time
Mm-hmm.
to make an effort to get back into it. And listeners, that's what it's all about. At least for me, Rebecca, that's what it's all about is acknowledging the fact that, hey, there are bumps in the road. There could be traveling husbands. You could be writing a book like Becca, or you literally could just be so exhausted that you have decided not to do that on that day. But there is always another day. And my goal for myself and hopefully for our listeners is to make sure that that goal or that day doesn't come next year. Let's get back on it as soon as possible because I am a huggy person, and if you ever meet me in person, you most likely will get a hug. But we also have to be very honest, and there's tomorrow's another day. You can keep saying that until it's a whole other year. So I just like the fact that you took initiative right now to get back on your goal. And to our listeners out there, I hope that you're taking that as a cue. If right now you're kind of on a break from your goals, to go ahead and get started back in so that we can form those healthy habits.
Yeah, the second you become aware that you made a mistake or you didn't follow through on something, that is golden. Because that's going to start the chain of, okay, I'm aware, and then you engage in your self-compassion. the simplicity of it's okay. It's okay.
Exactly.
It's going to
You
be
owe
okay.
it
I'm
to
going to be
yourself.
okay.
You owe it to yourself to get back into it because let me tell you what, you can't hide from yourself. And a lot of times, believe me, I've tried. You can't hide from yourself. You're going to be in your head. Sometimes it's just so much more difficult emotionally, mentally, physically to not do what you know is going to get you to a better place. I know for me, the days I don't work out, the days I eat a lot of what isn't nourishing me properly are the days where mentally and emotionally I go ahead and really let myself have it. And if I would have just followed through on that habit, it would just be so much better for me in the long run.
Yeah, well, so you bring up something interesting because you actually, I think, are starting to bring up the difference between guilt and shame. And it's an important topic. We'll touch on it today, but I love it how we talk and it gives me all these podcast ideas. We should have a total show on guilt and shame.
Yes, I love it.
Not exactly a light topic, but you mentioned that, being in your head and that you'd be really hard on yourself, if you did something, if you made a mistake. So what that says to me is that you have values, life values that are really important to you around self-care and body kindness. There are things that you're trying to do. And when you make choices that aren't aligned with your values, they're mistakes. When you get too hard on yourself about it, or not saying you or people, I don't know if you can relate to this or not, but when a person gets too hard on themselves about a mistake, that tends to be where they're sort of black and white, all or nothing thinking, perfectionism type thinking. And my favorite, what do we call her? She's a researcher and an author and a guru, Brene Brown. She's an expert on shame. And she says, I forget exactly, but it's like when shame is driving, perfectionism is riding shotgun, or vice versa. They're best buddies is the bottom line. And so the difference between guilt and shame is I'm a bad person. God, who wants to be a bad person? And guilt is I did a bad thing. So know the difference. It's okay if you feel guilty. You talked about eating a lot and not respecting your body. Should you feel guilty? Well, maybe a little, but it's more like a reflection. And you know what? It's real important to me that I do choose what I want and I enjoy my food, but it's also important to me that I stay connected and respect my body, respect my fullness. I'm really working on that. I'm working on those intuitive eating skills, and, you evaluate. Some things happened. Was it an emotional trigger? Were you just happy? Was it just too good you didn't even think about it? And that's where it can get the most uncomfortable. You don't want to face the reality of what happened. And, let yourself feel guilty. I feel bad that I did this, because you can forgive yourself and move on, which is what you're coaching folks to do here today. I can hear it in your voice.
Oh, yeah.
But it's when you feel shame, like I'm a bad person, that is what makes people want to run, because nobody wants to be shamed. I mean, it's a horrible, strong, negative emotion, and we don't want to feel it. And actually not wanting to feeling shame, not wanting to feel it, not wanting to deal with it actually leads to more of the behavior that causes shame in the first place. And you're downward spiraling at that point, and that is not body kindness.
No, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I'd like to share, and Rebecca, I'd love for you to chime in after I share this, is, it took a lot of work for me to replace my more nourishing habits with ones that weren't. My body fought me on some of the poor decisions that I was making for myself. And it's really interesting to me how I worked through that. And it's the opposite way around. In order to form negative habits, I literally had to get rid of these good ones. And that in and of itself was a process. So I'm thinking, well, if it's going to take work either way, whether it's to form good ones and know that that's going to be hard work, or form bad ones to replace the good ones and knowing that that was hard work, I want to err on the side of forming the good ones or put work into forming the good ones. I'm telling you, my body, and I may sound crazy here, but my body fought me on incorporating a lot of these negative habits into my life, but I just was steadfast in making sure that
You were
you
committed to your
know,
bad
I was
habits.
I was committed, absolutely. And we laugh about it, but think about it. Are you committed? I'm talking to you listeners. Are you committed to forming bad habits? Maybe through your inaction. If you're not proactive in doing it, maybe through your inaction, that's what's going on. Becca, do I sound nuts here or
No, it sounds like you maybe have gone through I mean, something happened or changed, even in a small sense, in your life. Stress, job changes, things like that. Um, or even a more gradual shift that might have impacted your sense of self-compassion, self-esteem, self-worth, or just the confidence of that this is who Bernie is, and I mean, I've known you for a long time, and my guess is that we talked about this when we first started podcasting together, but that there was, I think you're still trying to figure out who, like, the real healthy, lifelong, inside and out Bernie is.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think that, you know, um, as a human being, we reach various stages in our life where we do have to reevaluate who we are in this new skin or situation or place in our life. And it's not easy, but it is worth doing. And you're right. I'm still, constantly defining and trying to understand what health looks like for me. And I think that's a very healthy question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Once we're able to ask those types of questions, the next step is, I feel, molding into that person and becoming that person.
Yeah. Well, some important steps. You mentioned it was hard work, and I'm not going to disagree with you there. I mean, I try to take the mindset of benefit finding. So, to take a step back from there, you start with your values, things you care about. You set goals based on your values. Goals are behaviors that you can. It's not a goal to say, this is what I want to weigh. This is the size pants I want to be in. That is not a goal. You can't control it. A goal is a behavior. So you set these goals, and then you commit to taking actions that are in line with your values and goals, essentially. And that's kind of like the framework of putting together habits. And then it's about repeating them consistently, like I talked about earlier. So it is definitely hard work. There are ups and downs, and good days and bad days, and good moments and bad moments, and mistakes. And, I think that, as much as I like to take the angle of do what you love, and find the joy, and I do believe you can find joy and satisfaction in all of your choices, that doesn't mean that everything is, rainbows and clouds and completely effortless unicorns and stuff. There are challenges and work, but as you so eloquently pointed out, both decisions can be hard work. Both types of habits can be hard work. And so it's up to you to choose. And you do have the choice. It's up to you to choose, what goals do I want to set? What habits do I want to create? And I would just ask listeners to really think about the habits you have now, the habits you would like to form, why you want to form those habits, and commit yourself to them and stay committed to them. And hopefully this framework of body kindness is helpful for you and guiding you to be good to yourself, take good care of yourself. No matter what you do, it matters and it counts, and you build and grow stronger and healthier and happier from there.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I mean, that's definitely why I'm part of the podcast. And I hope that that's why our listeners are listening in. There's always room for positive, nourishing improvement. And I absolutely love this conversation because habits is something that, sometimes people say, and they get this feeling of it's a big bad word, this habit. But it doesn't have to be. It could be an opportunity for you to really explore who you are, commit to yourself, and get out there and do what you know is nourishing for your body and your health all around.
Right. I love it. Well, we're going to be checking in with each other on our goals and habits again in future shows. But I think we had a really great conversation today about some of the key necessary components of building habits. And, keep in mind that if we're not doing rigid diet plans or, any of that other stuff that's out there that calls it health, but we know is really not, what are we doing? And what I think we're doing is we're taking good care of ourselves. We're having fun doing it. And we're creating habits that we love, that we can live with, that are flexible and fun, and that are uniquely defined by ourselves and our own standards and nobody else.
Absolutely. All our listeners out there, I just want to encourage you to get out there, live the life that you deserve, love the life that you're living. I am just your biggest fan too. And I'm talking to our listeners, Rebecca, because I think some of them need to hear that. I am your fan, and I thank you guys for listening into our podcast.